So here we are, welcome back to A Different Life. Thanks for watching. Right now we're heading northwards up the Sound of Jura. We've got about 18 to 20 knots of wind astern, and unfortunately, as you can see, I've only got one sail set, because when we left earlier on today, the mainsail, we discovered the mainsail was ripped and about to tear itself into two pieces. So the mainsail's tucked away for another day, and when we get to port we'll change over and get the spare mainsail that I have set up. So here we go. So this is looking a little bit south of west, and the two paps of Jura just disappeared out of sight there. Unfortunately, the wide angle lens doesn't do them their full glory. They do look higher than that in reality. But you can see to the north and to the west we're approaching the Corryvreckan whirlpool, which is in the sea gap between the northern tip of Jura and the southern part of the much smaller island of Scarborough. Of course, the Corryvreckan, as you may well know, is world famous, third largest seawater whirlpool on the planet, although it's only really like that when at the right time of tide. It's not like that throughout the entire tidal cycle. And I've been through several times on powerboats, and you can sail through quite straightforwardly if you're careful at the right time of tide. But if you don't go at the right time of tide, then that's a whole different story, and if you are unlucky, sometimes there are vortexes that may be as much as 30 feet, or about 10 meters deep. But it's a world famous place. But we're sailing past the entrance to that piece of water, which is kind of, you're looking at it kind of right now as I scan about. So this is the Sound of Luing, and the current runs high here. There we are, 13.3 knots of boat speed. Now the hull speed for my boat's 8.2, 8.3 knots, so it's never going to go any faster than that unless I'm surfing or unless I'm aided by the tide. In this case, I'm aided by the tide, which is clearly running at over 5 knots, and is a classic example of one of the more serious tidal races off the west coast of Scotland. There's half a dozen places where the tide runs like this, and even stronger in some instances. But as I say, right now I'm cruising along. I have a basic boat speed of 8.2 knots, but a speed over ground of 13.3 knots, because I've got 5 knots of tide sweeping me along. Obviously, if I was at the wrong time of tide and going against it, that would mean with an 8 knot of boat speed minus the 5 knots of the tide, I'd only be crawling along at 3 knots, which would be kind of disastrous, going nowhere in a hurry. You can see the water here, it's pretty swirly, and again, that's an indication of the kind of tidal freak things that are happening in the water. That lighthouse in the background is Fladder Lighthouse, and that marks our port, if you like, boundary as we go through the exit from the Sound of Luing, which I'm now looking back on. Lovely old school ship there in the background with its red sails, but they were struggling a little bit to keep the boat straight, etc. So we're headed for Oban when we get out of the Sound of Luing, and Oban's another 15 miles or so further up through the Sound of Carrera. But it's good to see the Sound of Luing, and it's good to be essential to be aware of the strength of the current here. As I mentioned earlier, it's one of the places that you really don't want to be here with the tide in the wrong direction, or you're just going to waste a ton of fuel and go nowhere in a hurry. So anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. Brief little video, my moving of the boat eventually up to Corpac Marina, and this is part of that phase. I stopped off in Oban on the way. Thanks.